Hello everyone and welcome to episode 152nd of Kouryer podcast. As you have probably noticed, I've changed a lot of the formats of the podcast since episode 150 with Mehdad Malik. And yeah, this episode is being recorded at 27th of February right now, but it's probably going to get uploaded like 10 days later. But yeah, just want to mention that. And also please always keep the Instagram notifications on for the page, because that's right as of now, whenever I'm going to invite a guest, I'm going to put a story that I'm going to ask you guys, any questions, whether you have any questions or not from them. So I'm going to ask the guest those questions as well. So, that's really important. And well, with that going, kind of notice out of the way, let's just jump into today's guest. Our today's guest is Mr. Wouter Gort. He's a concept designer and also a concept artist from Amsterdam, Netherlands, which he worked on a lot of hard surfaces stuff, and some of his game and project he's working on as well, which is also mentioned in his Twitter bio. We're going to talk about that as well. And also in the contact section of the captions, as usual, you can see his Instagram handle, ArtStation, Twitter, YouTube, his website, all that stuff. You can have them as well. And here's the thing. I'm going to ask you something first.
Sure.
Initially, when you first started, basically, what was that point in time? What was that event that happened that made you be like, all right, I want to become an artist? What happened exactly? Right. What inspired you?
Well, I know the point for concept artists, but general artist, to be honest, that was kind of always the trajectory. I always say I'm lucky that art is a career choice. Otherwise, I would have been screwed, because it was very clear from the very, in whatever that lowest school is called when you're a little kid. I was only drawing all the time. So in high school, everyone knew I was going to try to become an artist. And at that point, I still thought I was going to be a fine artist or something. But so yeah, that was always the goal, to be honest. And concept art specifically came from me trying to become a fine artist, going to fine art school and hating it so much that I just quit after 6 months. And then I thought, now I need something else. And then I thought, I had this moment where I thought, I love games, I love that kind of stuff. That's the kind of drawing I want to do. I don't want to become a fine artist or artist. So then I made the switch and fully went for concept art from that point on, and yeah.
All right.
Yeah, that's the way, actually, yeah.
Interesting. And here's the thing. I've looked at a lot of your works, both on Instagram and ArtStation, and I couldn't help but notice, there's I think some particular inspirations that I can, see myself, which is one of them is, I think, if I'm not mistaken, Ghost in the Shell, kind of genre stuff. I see a lot of Neo Tokyo kind of cyberpunk vibes as well.
All right.
And basically, when did you realize that that's an issue you want to work in?
Sorry, what were you asking? Sorry.
When did you realize that that's a kind of niche and artworks you want to work in? And also, why do you think this type of subject really attracts you as an artist?
Yeah, that's always, I don't know how you feel about that, but that's always the tough thing where I'm wondering that myself too. Why the hell am I drawn to this kind of stuff? Because it's I know exactly, okay, my inspiration is you're right, you were spot on. Ghost in the Shell, love that. Number one is probably Akira. That's I remember seeing that. A buddy of mine, I was over at his place for his birthday, and I was just used to cartoons for kids. And he was like, "You like drawing, right? I'm going to put on this movie, you're going to freak out." And I was like, I don't know. And then he put on Akira, and it just changed everything. It was violent, it insane action, extremely cool editing. It was just badass, And that made a huge impact on me. Akira and Metal Gear Solid. So it's those two things, I can't get out of that. So I wonder myself too, why is that the thing that I'm drawn to? But there's something in me that just, it's just badass, man. I love that stuff. So anything I do is sort of in some way inspired by Metal Gear or Akira. I just love badass things. Do you have that for yourself, like that moment where you're like, yep, that's it?
Yep, actually, I had a couple of those actually, but about like
Oh
the
yeah.
exact genre you're working on, I'm kind of on the same boat as well. I watched Ghost in the Shell, but actually, fun fact: the episode that kind of initially was the start of like the new format of the podcast, which was like 2 episodes ago, episode 150. His cover work that I used was the artist basically made a contribute, like a tribute to Akira. So
Oh
that's
yeah.
kind of interesting how
Oh,
it
I
is.
saw that. I saw that on your
Yeah.
Instagram. Yeah, that looks cool. Yeah, I mean, I still want to do a cool Akira fan art piece too at some point. I have a very clear idea about what I want to do, but it's going to take some time. And I mean, it's I feel like fan art is such a tricky thing. And generally, I don't like it. Like I just the whole reason I'm a concept artist is to come up with my own stuff. But there are like a few. Like I think the amount of concept art, the amount of fan art I done, I can probably count on one hand. But there's like a few things. It's like Akira. I have done some Metal Gear fan art, and then like Hotline Miami. I love that game, so I did some like Hotline, and maybe like a Batman thing, But yeah, I still definitely want to do that.
Yeah, here's the
But
thing. Oh, sorry, go on.
no, I was going to ask you like. You haven't told me your
Yeah, I was
moment.
actually gonna say, like, here's the thing. Of course, everyone's taste kind of changes over time, but there's been a constant, like, genre niche that I've always, like, since now loved. And it's basically the same stuff that you like. I always loved mechs and robots and spaceships and just kind of hard surface environments and just props and devices and all this cool stuff. And yeah, not just that, one of the also niches that I seriously love is a post solar punk, kind of like a solar punk-esque environments, like basically post-apocalyptic, but it's a happy post-apocalyptic. Like I think one of the main pieces that kind of really stamped on the whole post-solar punk, that kind of vibe that I'm looking for, is the end of Volley. In the end of Volley, there's like
yeah.
the humans come back. It's a dusty, like broken, abandoned world, but there's like plants growing everywhere. Like the kind of actually, I have for all the subjects, I have like a whole world inside my head. I'm just adding elements to it, so over time I can make like scenes from it. And like basically it's a world like that, like there's kids running around with happy colorful balloons. There's different shrubs of like fruits like growing outside of like a hunk of like a broken destroyed mech, kind of those kind of environments. And there's even there's still some mechs that are still roaming like Wally, and
there's something interesting about that, right? Like the overtaking of nature and like the sort of getting back to sort of that nature feel and I think I get what you mean. Like I'm really into that too. There's like a beauty in that,
And the thing is, like, for me personally, like, the moment I realized I wanted to be an artist and want to go over there, but, growing up in, countries that don't have really, good economic situation, like Middle East or Africa or, sometimes, Southeast Asian countries, I'm not sure about those totally, but there's one constant cultural thing that's, that this fact kind of gets drilled into you, that art is never a path, but fortunately, that in recent years, it's been totally, like, changed. And the thing is, like, when I was like 4 or 5, I knew I wanted to be an artist. Like, because I played Mortal Kombat, I played the Streets of Rage on Sega, and I was like, that is cool. But then, some older relatives or, my friends would say, you need to know math to make these games. And I was like, and years went by. I distinctly remember one of the key moments in my life, one of my core memories, if you will, was, I think it was when I was 10 years old. And basically there was this magazine in Iran called Bazi Rayane, which Bazi means game and Rayane means computer. It's basically about computer games and new games and tech and stuff like that. And at the time it was 3,500 2 months at the time, which it wasn't super expensive, but it was medium to expensive. And I had some spare money that I always used to collect spare money. I loved collecting the monies my dad, for example, is little money that, for example, my dad would give me to buy cakes or something at school. I remember I collected all of those, and I had like a makeshift, what's the name of that in English? Those things that piggy bank kind of thing.
Yeah.
And remember, I bought that magazine, and oh my god, let me tell you something. It had Gears of War 2 on it. It had Prince
Oh
of
yeah.
Persia. And every time on that magazine, there was like a additional reward, and which basically was a poster, random poster. It doesn't say on the cover like what poster of game you're going to get, and it was the poster of a new sequel to one of my favorite franchises of all time, Prince of Persia. And I was like, holy shit, this is awesome. It had I remember everything. It had Fallout 3 on it. It had Bionic Commander on it. It had Gears of War 2 on it. And I was like, this is so cool. People actually work on this stuff. And like I kind of couldn't believe it personally. And yeah, those, I think, one of the times. But here's the thing that happened. By the way, I'm sorry to the podcast listeners who probably heard this story from me a lot of times. But, you know, for the sake of the story, I'm still going to repeat it again.
I haven't heard it, so, you know,
and
it's
yeah,
all good.
I think it was one. Yeah, of course. And the thing is, when I was 17, I, for some reason, Googled myself to see what images or links pop up. You know, because at the time, I didn't manage my passwords and anything. I was like, you know, in which websites did I sign up or something, you know? And
right.
I did that, and I went into the image section. And the thing is, of course, there was a couple of images from my Facebook or something, but then there was like a cool sci-fi concept art. What is that? And it basically was a picture from a DeviantArt of a guy named Rumtin, the same name as me, you know? And I was like, wait, this guy's working as an artist for games? I think that was the first time I realized that people actually work in games, you know, like that specifically. And let me tell you something. It wasn't even less than a year ago that I thought if you wanted to become a concept artist, you have to become a Picasso at digital paint or something. Then I, started doing this podcast, and I realized, oh my god, it was all a hoax. It's all photo bashing. It was all asset rain. You don't have to write like just draw out all the details. You know what I mean? So I kind of went through this process as well. But now I kind of realized in the past couple of months that I wanted to become a 3D artist, and yeah, that's the path I'm on right now. But about Metal Gear, I kind of, it's also one of my favorite franchises of all time as well. And about Metal Gear, which was the first Metal Gear you played?
Metal Gear Solid 1, the PC port. I didn't have like a PlayStation or anything, and so it's like, yeah, that I played it with keyboard and I don't think even mouse at the time, but I remember vividly. Yeah, so Metal Gear Solid 1 was the first one I played, and then I played all the ones after that. You know, which one did you start out with?
I think, like, here's the thing. I knew a lot of games, you know, when I was a kid, but I never could play them because my devices weren't compatible and stuff. But the first ever Metal Gear I ever played was Metal Gear Solid Phantom Pain, which was extremely fun. Like, it was crazy. It has the kind of lore that you want to sink your teeth into it. Like, the writing and everything is awesome, and especially the art of Yoji Shinkawa. Like, he's actually in my top list of top 10 like artists that I really like, you know.
Yeah.
And then after that, I found like an Xbox port for Metal Gear 2, Metal Gear 3, and what there was something. Oh, Metal Gear Peace Walker. And which Peace Walker was originally for it was for PSP. Yeah, I played those as well. But God, it's such a cool franchise. But like, it's just badass. I don't know. It's like the perfect blend. Not just badass in terms of like even video game design and everything and the writing. It's a mix of blend of abstractness, weirdness, coolness, badassness, seriousness. Like, you know, when he, for example, designed Quiet from Phantom Pain. Of course, a lot of media had a lot of media backlash, but, you know, then Kojima just wrote, "You guys are going to be ashamed when you realize the reason she has to wear bikini outfit like that. It's because she has a skin problem. She needs to, you know, has as much sunlight." And I was like, you cheeky bastard.
Right. Yeah. I was like, that's convenient, but it was funny though.
Yeah.
It's one of those things where I'm like, I personally don't think, I feel like a lot of Metal Gear and a lot of Kojima stuff has very convoluted writing. Like, it's a little bit too much for me. But on the other hand, I can't get that experience anywhere else, you know, like that convoluted story, like that, like you said, weirdness mixed with violence and badass. I can only get that from a Kojima game. as far as I know, there's maybe people listening to this right now who are like, no, you crazy bastard, like you can get that from X game, whatever. But for me, that's like tied to Kojima, that sort of, that weird blend of convoluted writing, like action, badassness, weirdness. So I love that vibe. I mean, he did it in Death Stranding too. I really like that game as well. Again, the writing, like I don't really like watching cutscenes in video games, and Kojima is like the master of cutscenes. Like Metal Gear Solid 4, I think at one point you're like watching cutscenes for an hour, and it drove me nuts. But it's an experience, So when I go into one of those games, I'm like, all right, it's gonna be some cutscenes, then I can play, and it's gonna be cool, and it's gonna be weird, So, yeah, I mean, I guess that's what I love about it.
If I could, say one thing about Hideo Kojima is just he's a visionary, because the thing about him is, like, for example, let's say Metal Gear Solid 3, at the time, of course, the graphic drivers weren't so advanced, and not also that like the game engines weren't so advanced that it could give you a lot of capabilities that, for example, you had in Phantom Pain.
Right.
But he's a master of squeezing every single possibility out of the basic mechanics. Like in that kind of camera view of the game, like a kind of isometric type of movement. The movement was limited. It didn't have that sense of mobility, but here's the thing. At first, if you're someone who's not a fan of and a connoisseur of enjoying games as a medium and stuff like that, and you just want to go bang bang, you can go play battle royales and Warzone. Not saying it's bad. I'm just saying.
Right.
But the thing is, if you're the type of person that likes to enjoy games actually as an art form and pay attention to specific details, I think even Metal Gear Solid 3, I think it was 2004 or 2005 that got released. It was such a advanced out of the box creativity, design game. Not just that, like the other installations as well. But that one sticks out to me. Like for example, there was an old man Centurion, a sniper boss. I don't know if you know.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. A way that you can, everyone who's listen to this. I don't know if anyone who's listening and is a video game nerd or something. This might be interesting to you if you don't know. There's a sniper boss, all right? And you have to defeat him. And he's like a super old, expert sniper, deadly sniper. He's a legend. He's a legend, basically. And there's multiple ways, of course, you can, creatively, defeat the person. But one of them is go to the settings of your console. And if, for example, if the settings in the date of your console is 27th of February, if you just add 2 weeks to it and change this console settings to 2 weeks later, and you load back into your game, a rare cutscene plays. And it shows that the guy died of fucking old age. How awesome is that? By the way, in podcasts, you can swear. I'm not sponsored by anybody. It's fine. Yeah.
That's good. That's good to know.
Yeah,
I remember that. I mean, he's been doing that since he did that in Metal Gear Solid 1 too. I remember you have to look up some codec on the back of the case, and you have to put the controller down, and then the controller vibration would do something. I don't remember exactly what, but he's always done weird shit like that where, I don't know, it's really fresh and out of the box kind of stuff,
I think in Metal Gear 1, he always does this stuff. Like in Metal Gear 1, one of them that I really remember, I haven't played it, by the way, not even the PC port. But I think I forgot the name of the boss, basically that guy in he floats and he reads mind, octopus something, I forgot his name.
Mantis.
Mantis or something, yeah.
Psycho Mantis.
Yeah, Psycho Mantis, thank you so much. And even as a child, he was in Phantom Pain as well. And basically in Mantis, the Mantis dude, basically, he controls your mind and he controls you. So a way that you have to beat him is to, remove your PlayStation controller from your port and change it to the other slot of the thing. So it confuses the boss.
That's what it was, yeah.
Dude, it was 1997. I was born in 1997. I was not even a 1-year-old when that happened. That's crazy. At the time, he was so ahead of his time, honestly.
Yeah, no, totally, man.
And the sad thing is about Phantom Pain, I don't know if you know that, but it was rushed, basically. The product was rushed and a whole chapter couldn't be included in the game. And it's basically
I know.
By the way, I'm not sure if I should say anything because I don't want to spoil anything for anyone. But should I say what happened? We basically spoiled
I
a lot of
mean, the
stuff, by the
game is
way.
like, what, 6 years old or something by now. You can say
And
it.
it actually canonically is not in the game, so yeah, it's fine. Fuck it. In the end, like, when the chapter 2 happens, there's a chapter 3 where we basically hear that Eli basically stole Sahelanthropus and is now on an island isolated with a bunch of child soldiers. And that's like the actual final boss of the game, where you have to go defeat Eli and Sahelanthropus gets destroyed, and it's basically the origin story of a lot of bunch of other stuff that's going to happen in the future chronological installments of the game. And yeah, it's one of those really influential franchises on a lot of like media, not just games and movies and series and all this stuff like that.
Right. Yeah. Totally.
And here's the thing, like speaking of that kind of inspiration, and also we've known a little bit about your past of how you got into art and stuff like that. You thought you was going to be a fine artist, but then you changed to something else. But when was a time that you kind of realized you wanted to become a concept designer or slash concept artist? When did that happen?
So the concept design really came after that failed art school experience. So after high school, I first actually did a game design, quote unquote, game design school. But it was, to be honest, no one had any idea what they're doing. Like now I'm learning about game design through a company I'm working with. And I'm like, oh, wait, that's what game design is. Like the company I work at, the school I was at, it was more like making Flash games at the times. And Flash doesn't even exist anymore. So it was not the best, but I did that. So at that point, it was more like scripting, but it was ActionScript at the time. I don't even think ActionScript exists anymore. So I learned a bunch of stuff that I could never use after that. And then after that, I did that for 4 years. I was like, okay, I'm going to become a fine artist. So I went to this, like, it's a good art school, but it's really for people who want to become a fine artist. So it was like throwing paint around and all that kind of stuff that I think is stupid, So I was just there fighting with the teachers all the time. I was just kind of like annoyed because I felt like I just all thought it was stupid, to be honest. And it isn't, to be clear. For me, it was, like if you actually want to become a fine artist, great. I think that school was really good. But if you want to have something more tangible, like I did, something more like grounded, then it wasn't for me. So like I said before, after that, after 6 months, I was like, fuck this, I'm out. So I quit that school. And then I had nothing, no degree. So I thought I have to do something else. And then I actually, because I'm based in Amsterdam, I've always lived here. I found this little school in Los Angeles that specified in teaching concept art courses. So I kind of thought I have nothing to lose. I don't have school or anything to, in my future. So I'm just going to go there. And that's what I did. So for 3 months, I went to the States and learned a lot about the entertainment industry and concept art. And that's kind of where I realized, like, oh, this is it, this is what I really want to do. And I stuck with it ever since. That was 2011 when I went there for the first time. And then the years after that, I would go home the rest of the year, work and stuff like that, and then save up and go back to the States and like do another 3 months course. I mean, I say like I would just do crappy jobs. Like I worked at a hotel, as a dishwasher and, and then, just did that, worked on my portfolio and then went back. And I mean, I had the help from my parents too, which was really great. And I was really fortunate that way. So that's kind of what I did, man. Like just everything I know, I kind of learned at that little school in Los Angeles, to be honest. And that really made me want to become, a concept artist.
Do you remember the name of the school, by the way?
Oh yeah, it's called the Conceptdesign Academy. It's not officially Los Angeles. It's in a place called Pasadena. And
it's I think a little bit away from Los Angeles, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, exactly, a little bit more north. So I used to stay there. I went there like 5 years in a row, and I just went for 3 months every year. Because you could do that on a tourist visa. So I didn't have, didn't need to get like a student visa or anything like that. So I went on my tourist visa. and I didn't get any degrees from it either. But no one cares about degrees in our business. Like, I don't have any degrees, and no one gives a shit. So I've never been asked about that once.
It's insane. Like, imagine if you go to somewhere and they have like the human resources that are like, for example, checking the resumes of two people and two artists, and one of them has super good portfolio, but literally not even a high school diploma. Another one, he's super studies. He has a degree from Harvard, and he has a decent portfolio, but it's not as good as the other one. They're always going to pick the other one.
Right.
And I'm kind of saying this point again because actually recently one of my friends asked me, "Hey, can I talk on Discord? I had some questions. I'm moving to France, but I was wondering, can I move if I want to work with a company and like take commissions? Do I need to have a degree or something?" And I'm like, no, just to start. Like, everything is free. Just go on YouTube and learn anything you want.
Right. I mean, it's kind of weird. Like, back in 2011, the online courses wasn't what it is now. Like, nowadays I could just do online. I'm still a big proponent of going to a place in person, because actually going to CDA, to Conceptdesign Academy, gave me a lot of context, and it ended up giving me a lot of jobs, because a lot of my fellow students became my fellow colleagues. So a lot of them became art director or studio head of whatever, and they gave me jobs later on in life. So it's you can learn a lot of the skills online, but to me, going to a physical place it's mostly about the people you meet, the context, the contacts. That's been the most important of actually physically going to space. But in terms of degrees, you don't need it. No one's the only time, even resume. I've been asked my resume once, and that's when I started to work for DreamWorks. They had because it's DreamWorks, right? They're like a big company, so they do everything official by the book. So when I was going to work there, I had to fill out this whole website thing with all this information, and I had to upload my resume. And I was like, what the hell? I don't even have a resume, I was like, what the hell is this? So I basically just uploaded a blank Word document that I just titled resume. And I just thought, let's see if they're going to say something. But of course they didn't say anything, because I don't think anyone checks that stuff. But at that point I realized, I don't even have a resume. I mean, I have my LinkedIn, but that's it. No one asks about that stuff.
I'm actually curious if anyone who might be listening to this podcast in the future, please let me know. Has anyone ever in the art world, I'm just curious, I'm not trying to be ironic or sarcastic or anything. Has anyone ever landed a job through LinkedIn in art, in concept art or something? I'm sure there are people out there, but LinkedIn is one of those things that it's one of those weird social medias. In my opinion, basically, in my subjective opinion, but there's this whole it's usually filled with a lot, especially I don't know the art side of it, but generally it's filled with some of motivational business guru type of bros and
there's a lot of that.
This kind of this whole attitude of toxic positivity, that sort of stuff.
I mean, to me, I use all of them. Most of my jobs come from ArtStation or Instagram, but I have LinkedIn. LinkedIn is, to me, good because it gives me my resume, basically gives me an overview of every company I've worked for. Because otherwise I would just forget, because I'm too lazy to make an actual Word document resume. I will just forget. So I use LinkedIn for all that stuff. And to me, it's kind of I put my stuff out on as many places as I can. I think Twitter is hell. I think it's one of the worst websites in the world, but I put my stuff on there because it's just another output for your art that potential clients can find you on. So same with LinkedIn. I mean, I use it because you never know, and it doesn't hurt to put it on there.
Yeah, definitely. And here's another thing that I was kind of wondering, speaking of some of your art, some of the artworks, your inspirations, your past. And I was wondering, I kind of looked through some of your stuff on Instagram and ArtStation as well, and I was just wondering, everyone has that kind of a specific style when it comes to doing their pieces and working on their pieces. And I was wondering, what is how does the pipeline, the structure of your pipeline usually look like whenever you want to work on a piece or something? how does it usually, like, what steps do you usually take, or what specific stuff do you know that you personally uniquely to you do in this process?
It's pretty similar. I mean, I use a lot of 3D. Even a lot of my stuff looks 2D in the end because I like to draw over it. But I use a lot of 3D under everything. So a lot of times it starts out with like a simple block out in Blender. And then whatever I get from that, I just draw over in 2D. And I get like just a pure line art version of what I want to create. And then after that, I fill that in with flat color, so without any light or any material indications. And I do all my material indications, light, reflections, I do that all separately on separate passes because I can't, in my mind, I can't connect the two immediately. I'm not a painter, so I'm, actual good painters, they can like paint like a red dress that's like a certain type of texture that's being hit by a blue light. My brain can't process that, so I have to do separate flat pass for the red dress, and then I do my lighting and material indication on top. So I basically, in a long-winded way, I'm saying my process is separating out as many steps as I can: 3D, line art, flat color, lighting. And that's the way I like to work, Also because I can go back. So I can go back to my flat colors because my lighting is on top separately, and I can change that red dress to whatever I want without having to repaint anything.
Yeah, definitely. And I was wondering, like, about something else as well. As you know, I mean, of course, and a lot of people who are listening to this podcast might know, like, for example, on January, like, sorry, not January, October is, there's our famous art challenge that has called Inktober. A lot of people, like, it has an official prom list now. It's super big now. But there's another upcoming month that is kind of like happened to be, as a start to become a little bit popular. There's another challenge called March of the Robots. And I was wondering, have you participated in that, or are you planning to participate in this one?
You know what? I always say that I'm going to do it. The same with Inktober. If you look at my Instagram, I've done a lot of failed Inktober's attempts. Like I always make it to day 4. And I'm just not going to do it anymore because, like I don't feel any pressure to do that stuff. Like I see other people, they feel like, oh, now I started, now I have to make it to day 30 or else, like I really couldn't care less, if people think I failed at the challenge, and I don't care for myself either. So I usually start that stuff because I'm excited and I think it's fun. And then after 4 days, I'm like, what the hell am I doing? Like, I already do this drawing stuff for my job, So I don't personally don't really like to do it all that much outside unless it brings something new to the table. So unless I feel like I can learn something new. So I always bail out like very quickly with Inktober or March of Robots. So I'm not going to do it. Like maybe those kind of challenges will inspire me to do a mech, but I'm also not a big proponent of like doing 1,000 things of something. Like I'm my personal preference, and I'm not saying that's good or bad, my personal preference is to make one thing and spend a lot of time on it, and just make that one mech cool. Like when I did Inktober, it usually ends up with me being frustrated with myself because I think all the drawings are ugly and needed more time, So, so I don't really. It's not really my thing. Have you done it?
Yeah, kind of the same boat on you. I kind of started, like the most I even did on Inktober was day 10 or 12 or something, but then it dropped.
Okay, right, yeah. And it becomes one of those things where then there's some sort of guilt there initially where you're like, like I'm not finishing it. And then I'm like, who am I trying to impress? I don't, who gives a shit? So, I hear you. And, I'm not doing it anymore. I love that people do it. It's very impressive. And I think that, it is very inspiring, especially that March of Robots thing I really like because I love mechs, and love seeing what people come up with, and it's sort of like the fact that it's in a month and a lot of people are doing it means that you're getting like a lot of stuff in your face at the same time, which is great. So who knows? Maybe I'll do one mech piece for myself in March. But yeah, definitely not 30. That's crazy.
Yeah, and the thing is, I think the nice thing about this challenge is I'm not sure about the details of October, but with March of Robots, I think I read some of the rules that, every week there's like a raffle that, from the people who participated in the challenge, there will be like, challenge rewards and stuff like that. So don't be worried or stressed that, oh, I'm such a, I'm not a good artist, I will never win. No, it's actually randomized. If I read that correctly, yeah, I think I read that in the official website of it. And there's even a prompt list already. You can start on the R&D of your design. I had the plans to do it. I'm probably going to do it. I have a plan to do it like before the challenge starts, but I'm probably not going to do it.
Right. Well,
yeah, go on. Sorry.
No, I was gonna say like the thing I've never done is, even when I tried Inktober, is the prompt list, because for me it's like that feels like work to me when I have to do someone else's prompts. Like if I do a mech or a robot or Inktober drawing, I want to do whatever the hell I want to do. I have a lot of ideas for myself. So the prompt, to me, I think it's a good thing for a lot of people to help you, get to ideas or get sort of a fence to work within, like a box to work within, which I think is great. But yeah, I mean, like a lot of times it's like I don't know, like the prompt is like ice or something. Like that feels like I don't know. I'm complaining now. I'm sorry.
No, it's not. I mean, I get what you mean. Actually, I think because of that, the fact that you just mentioned, I think the new even the recent Inktober, there was some extra stuff that, if you didn't want to do this prompt, you can do freestyle stuff. I think something like that.
Oh, okay.
I'm not sure, but there was some nice specific changes to the whole format of the challenge.
Right. That's good.
Even wait, actually, let me check, because I have the tab of the whole challenge ready, pinned to my browser on my other browser. March of the Robots. Yes, I think. Oh, they added modifiers. So for the 2022 official prompt list of the March of Robots, there's the first is Signal, then Darkness, then Control, and it's in a yellow font. It added plus mods, and modifiers are first, beautiful, living, low, unique, big, hot, cold. And let me actually quickly read out the whole rules. The first point is, drawings can be digital or analog, but it must be drawn by you and depict a scene featuring a robot in some way. 2, follow Chocolate Soup page and also March of Robots page, plus Zen Collabs, I don't know, underline US page, hashtag your drawings with create with Zen Collabs, and hashtag March of Robots 2022. Post it to Instagram and any other social spot you like, Twitter, Facebook, TikTok, etc. And the third point is, have fun with it. So from the looks of it, it seems that you can't do 3D works, so it has to be digital inside, which is actually weird. I think they should also add 3D to it as well, since a lot of the people in who are into mechs and robots and stuff like that, they're really into 3D and hard surface modeling. I think they're missing out on big stuff here.
But I mean, you can, even if you want to, you can just do it. It's like a quote unquote rules, because it's someone online on the internet saying what you can. Like everyone's posting, you could totally do whatever you want. Tag March of Robots on Instagram and no one can stop you. Like, I'm in favor of that kind of stuff, because it's the internet. It should be, a little bit free. That's what I believe. It's the same with Inktober. There was this thing about, can it be traditional or digital? Who cares? It's the internet. Put a drawing on there, tag it Inktober, and more art, the better. Yeah,
exactly. And another thing I need to mention, that specific information for this challenge is, drawing challenge also is to be eligible for the whole thing, because there's a chance to win a Zensalab pen tablet and the quick key device for it. And I think they're going to reward 4 of those. And to be eligible to enter this raffle, you need to submit a minimum of 1 new drawing on Instagram for that week's draw. So it seems that even 1 drawing is enough, or am I wrong?
One drawing a week?
No, because it says you must submit oh no, I'm wrong. You must submit a minimum of one new drawing on Instagram for that week's draw. So I think you should do a whole week. Or I'm wrong.
I see.
Yeah, just do the whole
really
week if
know.
you're going to do the challenge for anyone who's listening.
Yeah. I'm not sure, to be honest. I haven't participated in one of those challenges in quite a long time, so I'm not sure about the rules and all that stuff.
Yeah, but I'll definitely give it a try. Like, I have some, I found actually some really nice brushes. Like, the whole process of finding that nice brush is kind of like a whole journey of itself. But
Right.
I'm not kidding you. Like, I actually found a brush that sometimes, when you're bored and you're just doodling on your Photoshop with your tablet, and sometimes you get some interesting abstract shapes that you sometimes see some sort of thing in it, And
right.
this brush, I don't know, it has a certain, like, I'm going to show it to you later if you want. But basically,
Sure.
one day I wanted to draw a spaceship because I wanted to use it as a reference and build it in Blender. So the thing, actually, I built that completely and made a project out of it. It's on my Instagram page. I was like bored and I was just pressing on the tablet itself, and the brush itself was pressure sensitive, so it would make like weird shapes. And it made like a spaceship kind of shape. And I was like, that's awesome. I took a screenshot of that, enlarged it, and just, draw the details on it with another color. And all right, I'm not going to answer that. And and also, I basically made the whole shape out of it. And I made like two references out of it, like one from top and from side. Added in Blender, made the shapes out of it. Boom, bada bing, bada boom. We got a spaceship.
Right.
And
that's cool.
Yeah. And here's the thing: have you ever, like, had some of those, fun, like, interesting accidents?
I do. I understand your process. It's like a shape-based process where you're discovering and sort of can fantasize about the shapes you're finding. Like that's an interesting process. Like that's not the way I work. I work very much line-based. So I'm not so much of a shape guy as a line guy, and my process is different in the sense that usually by the time I start drawing, I kind of know what I want to create. So it's very difficult for me actually to do the shape-based approach. So when I was in the Concept Design Academy and I was studying, the method you described was actually one of the things we had to do. So, and I found that like very difficult for me to do. So I slowly, during trying out different stuff, I ended up with realizing that, actually my personal way of designing is always in line. So line is the way I discover my shape. There's still a lot of, like you say, accidents, like happy accidents that happen because, there's a lot of lines and I'll just realize like, this is actually a better way to go. But a lot of it comes from fantasizing basically while I'm drawing of what it could be and how it sort of could go. But I need to have a pretty clear goal of where I'm heading. Otherwise, it's a very difficult process for me, which is also something that works against me, because if I don't have a clear idea for something, it becomes very, very difficult process, especially if I need to have to show something by the end of the day. Those are frustrating days,
Yeah, and it's kind of interesting that I kind of remembered something. There's this artist called, I think he's Asian or something, if I'm not mistaken. His username handle is Kobe, like Kobe Sek, SEK. He does like, make sci-fi illustrations, and his process is super intriguing. I'll send his page to you later and you'll see what I mean. And he works in blocks, like one block of shape on Photoshop, one block, and in the end, it actually turns into a super detailed, nice illustration and drawing of like a robot or a mech or something. Like, it's so interesting. Everyone kind of like, develop their own style at some point there in terms of design process.
That's impressive. Yeah. I'm always interested to see everyone's process because it's super personal. And I don't think any process is better than another. It's really trying to find out what works for you. I mean, I've tried all of them, like starting with a silhouette, starting with shapes, like you did. Actually, one of our teachers was really into having all these crazy brushes and just starting to bash shapes onto your canvas, and then taking your lasso tool and like cutting stuff and then rotating it and like flipping it and all that stuff. And then for him that worked amazingly, because he would do it for us in a demo, and then all of a sudden he was like, that's it. And then he would just like you described on your process, he would just like pick a shape and make this amazing spaceship out of it, or mech. I've never been able to do that, but I love seeing it. It's awesome. It's an awesome process to see someone do. It seems like a lot of fun, but it's like it's such a personal thing for everyone. So yeah, to me, it's all about trying everything out, and then you see what sticks at the end of the day, and that's yours, like that's your method.
And to summarize the last 10 minutes of our speaking is I'm going to mention again the third rule of the March of the Robots challenge, which was have fun.
Right.
You will end up with these explorations and these accidents, naturally, if you're just messing around with the softwares. And yeah, just have fun and see what feels right. And also, totally. Here's the thing. About the thing you're working on right now. I mean, of course, in your Twitter bio, there is this thing about you saying, I'm an artist concept artist who is foolishly trying to make a game. And of course, right. before I hit the record button, we talked extensively, about your game that is coming up and you're working on it. But could you care to explain to us a little bit about it? What's the direction and basically the story of it, how it started and stuff like that to our listeners?
Yeah, totally. I mean, projects like this, personal projects, come from me. I want to try to do new stuff. I mean, I have a lot of concept art friends, and some of them just love to paint. That's what they do for their job. It's what they do outside of their job. And I realized that's not me. I'm not that person. I love my job. It's a great job. But after doing it 8 or 10 hours a day, I really realized I don't want to do any more drawing outside of that usually. And that might sound a little bit bad, like maybe I'm not putting in enough effort. I don't know, but that just is what it is. That's how I feel about it. So I do want to be creative outside of that. I just don't want to do more concept art. So I just been trying to find ways to have a creative outlet that isn't concept art. So that's how slowly this game project came about. So it started with this ArtStation challenge where we had to do like some 3D art challenge. And at that time, I was only 2D focused. So I thought this would be a cool challenge to do a project fully in 3D without any 2D. So, that felt to me something that I could do that felt fresh and new to me. That wasn't what I was already doing on the job. So I did that. That was really fun. And then having designed that character in 3D, I was kind of thinking like, man, I have this 3D model, I want to use it in some way. So I started making like little animations for it, just little vignettes about what this character that I call Ballbot, it's like a little ball robot, just little vignettes that the character would do, And then when I did the animations, I sort of thought, I want to be able to play this myself. I want to do these things that I've been animating. I want to walk around. I want to use these. You can use your different limbs. I won't go into that, but that's kind of excited me because I thought, okay, this is something that isn't specifically concept art. This is something where I can try and learn a new skill. So I started learning Unreal, started learning scripting, and yeah, I've been working on it ever since, trying to make this Ballbot thing playable basically and put gameplay and stuff in it. So yeah, man, that's kind of how it went.
All right, interesting. And by the way, sorry for I think it was obvious I was looking away at my screen and I'm doing it right now. Funny thing happened, because when someone's constantly calling you can't help but to notice, maybe it's something emergency.
Yeah.
And here's the oh Jesus, wait, Mehdi, if you're gonna probably see this podcast in 2 weeks, I have your chat here. Go to the 49 and 30-second mark. He thought that today was Monday because we're supposed to have a call at 9 p.m. my time, and
Oh.
it's 9:02 p.m. now. And
Uh-oh.
yeah, I think we got nervous. Oh my god, where are you? Yeah.
So
Well,
is
yeah.
this for a podcast or just like
No,
a
just
chat?
normal, talk.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah, but yeah, it's kind of funny. Yeah.
So now what? Now he knows that that like was a miscommunication or something.
Yes. No. He knew that we were going to speak on Monday. Yeah, but let's move on to that. It was just a funny thing that happened because he kept like calling a couple of times. I was like, oh my god, it might be an emergency.
Right, right.
Yeah, but yeah, everything worked out. Yeah.
Okay, I'm
And
glad.
here's the
I'm glad to
thing.
hear.
Yeah, what?
I'm glad to hear that it worked out.
Yeah, same. And here's the thing, like, you see, this seems a bit scuffed that I'm looking at text and I'm talking about random stuff, but this is how I think adds kind of an organic flow to the podcast format, I think, in my personal opinion. And, since I kind of changed the whole
Sure.
format, I'm trying to, like, make the whole talk, more fluid, more organic, more real, First
Yeah,
saying, fuck,
no.
I'm not sponsored. Let's go.
Yeah,
Hell
exactly. Yeah. Yeah, man, it's all good. It's a conversation, right? It's just a chat. So I think anything goes. So yeah, you're all good, man.
Yeah, exactly. And actually, how you mentioned, there's two things I forgot to ask you, during our talk. One of them is like, you said at some point you started doing odd jobs and stuff like that, and while at the time you were working on your portfolio. And I
Right.
was wondering, when was the first art job paycheck you ever got out of art? When was it? What was it for? And how did you feel at the time when you got it?
Oh man. Let's see. My first art paycheck. Well, I did really crappy jobs, like because I couldn't get any actual concept artwork, so I would do like visuals for these little flash mobile games on these terrible websites that basically they would pay me like 50 euros or something for like days of work, and I just accepted it because I was like, I guess, I guess this is how it goes. I had no clue. I had zero clue. So that was like my first interaction with this stuff. I would just do the worst mobile phone games, characters and backgrounds. I mean, you could barely call them backgrounds and characters, and yeah, get paid very little money. But my first actual paycheck in a company was when I worked in the theme park business. So my first actual job as a concept artist was in the theme park business. That's where I had my first in-house job, and that's where I got my first paycheck.
All right, awesome.
Yeah.
And here's the thing. I also, added this recently added this kind of section thing to my podcast format as well. Like before this whole big revamp of the whole format, which is basically for everyone who basically every platform that I post content of the podcast, every single one of those platforms has a unique content to it, right? So the audio platforms is of course the normal podcast. For Instagram, there's like a specific quote of like the guest that I write for every guest, which is that's only on the Instagram page. So there's a reason for people to follow, and of course other news. And for YouTube, for the video version, for anyone who is listening and watching the podcast on the video version, I added the sketchbook tours section, which, as you said before we started, you don't have much like interesting stuff in your opinion, like in terms of sketchbook, but you showed me some 3D model you're working on. Could you please show that again and speak to us about it a bit?
So yeah, you ask about sketchbooks, and like I said, I don't do a lot of sketching or drawing outside of my job. So I don't have I feel like all concept artists have these amazing sketchbooks. I don't have it. If I do some drawings, it's on a blank A4 piece of paper, and I just throw it away afterwards. I'm also not very tied to that, I don't really save any of that, which is maybe a bad thing. But like I said, with the game I'm working on, like that interested me because it was something different and new. So like, for example, this is like a little, I don't know if you can see it. Like
yes,
it's a little
we can see it, yeah.
crate I made, and let me see if I can open it up. I broke it, but so like you can see inside, there's like a whole interior. So this was kind of like a project that I did, again, to try to do something different than I'm already doing in my job that's still creative. So I designed this thing in like a CAD software, so in Fusion 360. And then I 3D printed it with a 3D resin printer, painted it with a airbrush, and then I printed out my own like water slide decals, it's called. So this is like one of those sheets where you actually put this stuff in water and it'll dissolve, and you can put very thin like sort of stickers on your models,
Oh
which
yeah, I get
adds a
it.
lot of detail, which I mean, I love that stuff. So this is kind of like a project like that I've been doing, where I feel like this is the kind of stuff I like doing in my free time because it challenges me. You know, it's something new and different, and it actually influences concept art too, because when I do this stuff, I get a better sense of how real life objects are and behave and what I need to take into account. I can't get away with anything 3D printing, right? Like if I design for, let's say, when I worked on Destiny 2, you can get away with a lot of stuff. I mean, I don't have to prove anything because it's in a game, right? So like how the way it flies, the way things can clip a little bit, that stuff is fine because players won't see it. But once you start to actually 3D print stuff, you have a whole different set of rules that you need to take into account. So yeah, to me, I mean, I love doing this kind of stuff, man. Like it's something fresh. It's still creative. It's not concept art, but yeah, it's something that I really enjoy doing in my free time.
All right, and here's I need to mention something quickly. You were on another podcast with Aaron Donda, I think, called Learn Squared on episode 15, which I actually am gonna put in the link of it in the description as well. Go check it out. Here's the important thing. The reason I mentioned that out because there's a course you did on, I think, if I'm not mistaken, on designing better characters, like which I think you did it in like January of last year, if I'm not mistaken.
I think that's true.
Is it still up? The course is still up?
Yeah. Oh, it totally is.
And could you please give us a little explanation about that course? How is it? Who is it good for?
Right. Yeah. So that course I did with Learn Squared. It's a character design class, but it's also a prop design class. It's called Designing Better Characters, but I would say it's almost equally focused on designing characters and designing props. So in this class, we're basically designing, let's say, the main character, like your main character, and we're designing like an iconic prop that goes with that character. So a gun or a backpack or whatever it is. Because I think, to me, my workflow on characters or props, even backgrounds and vehicles, is kind of the same. So this class basically goes over my entire process, and it's geared towards character design and prop design. It's a fun class. I mean, I'm really proud of it, to be honest. I worked a long time on that class because you said it came out last year, and I was like, wait, I've been working on that class for way longer than that. But yeah, you're right. I think it came out, January last year or something. So that means it's been out for a year. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I'll definitely put the link of it in the description as well. And usually, like, for example, when we recorded this episode, of course, I need to add the teaser for my previous episode because I haven't done that. Basically, I'll take a snippet of the podcast, a video section of the podcast, and I'll put it in the stories, to tease the people for the upcoming episodes and all that sort of jazz. And of course, after that, I'm going to add like a link to the course link as well, so people can check it out if they want it. And yeah, the reason I wanted to ask you about Learn Squared was because of that. And of course, we've talked about, a lot of our inspirations, the thing that we like, basically most general stuff. But I want to ask you something. In your opinion, like, who were your favorite artists and designers that have inspired you the most? And yes, it's a hard question. And I know most artists are not good with names, but the names that are in your head right now that can pop.
I mean, one of the big ones has always been Sid Mead. I mean, he passed away, unfortunately, but he was a huge inspiration because he's like the OG concept artist, in my opinion. Like, he did like the original Blade Runner, like Tron. I think he's amazing. And so he was a big influence on me. I've had artists that were teachers of mine at the Concept Design Academy that were a huge influence on me and actually are some of my favorite artists. I mean, I credit a lot of the design knowledge I have to Darren Quach. He's an amazing designer. I mean, I think he's yeah, he's the best of the best. He did like Ratchet and Clank, a lot of the Insomnia game stuff. He's amazing. He's also an amazing teacher. So all around great guy. Who else? I mean, anyone who worked on Metal Gear, like man, it's
Yoji
terrible.
Shikawa?
How the hell could I not get to his name? Like he's like one of the big ones. But oh yeah, of course. I mean, Otomo, who wrote Akira, who made the Akira anime, is also a huge influence. So I would say, there's probably once we get off this call, I'm like, oh yeah, those people too. I have a lot of people that inspire me, but yeah, I would say on the top of my list are Darren and Sid Mead. They're they're huge inspirations, and Otomo is also up there. I think everything that he has done has been very influential. Akira, but also his other work. Like, have you ever seen this short? What's it called? Something like something to arms. Let me see. Man, farewell to weapons or something.
No, I don't think so.
Farewell to arms. It's called a farewell to arms. I should know the title of that because I love that short. But
it's a novel by Ernest Hemingway, right?
Could be. I don't know about that. I mean the Otomo short
Is
about
it a sci-fi thing or like
it's like sci-fi, like in mech suits. It's pretty amazing. I love it.
All right.
But I don't think I'm.
It just brings up the Ernest Hemingway novel, which is like 352 pages. I don't think that's really short.
Oh, it's called. I think it's like so. It's like it was like a part of I think it's called an anthology. So a bunch of different shorts put together, which I think it's called Short Piece, and then this is a short from this like anthology series or movie or whatever you call it. That's called either Farewell to Arms or Farewell to Weapons. One of those. Anyway, if you can find that, it's amazing. It's another. I'm just mentioning it because it's a big experience, a big inspiration, together with Akira and stuff like that. Like whatever that thing is that Otomo has, that design sense or that sort of, I just keep calling it badassness. Like whatever that is, that's what I'm drawn to and try to chase with my own work,
Yeah, and here's the thing I already mentioned as well. Of course, you explained to us about your upcoming game project that you're working on, and here's the thing. Like, I'm actually super excited about it because it has potential, and please do keep us updated on your Instagram and Twitter as well. And I think one of the big things, and I assume you know it as well, of course, is a huge part of the success of a game, and not just game, a project, is the teasers, like the trailers, the teasers, the hype, and even to the smallest degrees, it's also like super super important. I didn't used to tease my episode episodes of the podcast at all, but I recently started. And for the first time that I did, I had huge different results. Like with just one teaser, everyone are like all waiting for tomorrow night to upload for example, episode 150.
Right.
And when I, for example, used to do that rapid fire, or I'm getting off track, but basically, long story short, please do keep us updated about the teasers and trailers and everything.
Yeah, we'll do, man.
Yeah, my ADHD just goes wild haywire.
You're all good. And I mean, it's true. Teasing your projects and like being good about posting, and it's a big part of this whole thing because you can have good content, but if no one sees it, then it kind of goes to waste a little bit. If you want it to be seen, then you need to kind of play the social media game a little bit. There's no way around it, unfortunately. So I think that's good, man, that you're doing that. That's the way to go.
Yeah, and here's the thing: do you have any ideas about this? Like, of course, if there's things that you don't want to get it jinxed or talk about it right now, it's fine. But do you have a vision of what type of environment the game's gonna set in, what type of a story it might have, stuff like that?
Oh, the game I'm working on?
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. I mean, like this little robot I have, this little ball bot. To me, when I designed it, I had the story already in my head. Like it just came to me. So it's like this little. The idea is that you're playing this little ball robot that goes to this academy to learn to become the perfect companion to humans. So in this school, you're kind of like having to train to sort of become like the servant of humans, which of course poses this question: is that what you really want? You know, which gets into the idea of game design, of making choices. But that's the as global as I can get is the idea. You're a little ball robot that goes through a lot of scenarios, weird ass scenarios, to sort of try to cater to humans. So that's what the idea. I mean, I'm being purposely vague here because there's
Yeah,
a
I get
lot to
it.
figure out, and there's there's a lot more ideas I have for it, and a lot more that I know. But that's in it in a nutshell, basically.
All right, interesting. And actually, here's a weird, like, interesting thing, because like the whole world that I'm like, making in my head. Like, here's the thing. I know the name of like the planet that's all the stories gonna basically based, like the planet that's everything, all the stories and events are going to happen, and all the environments are in, all the characters are, is going to be something park. I know that I wanted to it's going to be called park, but I don't know what park. But here's the thing. Like a part of it is that I also, like, have this kind of robot and like protagonist, like, kind of like you.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, at some point, basically the part of the lore is, apparently there was this scientist who basically achieved a certain type of, like, breakthrough in artificial intelligence, that it gave the possibility of actual self-learning robots. The whole niche, it's nothing new. But the thing that I kind of added to it, that first the chipset has to start small. So of course, naturally, it should be on the body of a small robot. Then as you teach it more, as it learns more about the surroundings and everything, and can process stuff, it can, have bigger hardware and stuff like that. It's kind of like it's nothing new, but that's kind of mechanic I have in mind.
Okay.
And the thing is that, yes, I actually want to kind of make a game as well. Like, it's a kind of passion project myself. Not just a game; it could be an animation game, but game is my preferable medium. Kind of like you as
Right.
well. That it's going to be a robot that's going to explore kind of like a post-solar pine type of world and environment. And yeah, I mean, it's
That
always good to
sounds
have, like,
cool.
some sort of project. It's kind of to have a project for
Oh,
yourselves to work and practice towards,
yeah,
because, for example, let's say, all
totally.
right, you watch like a donut tutorial by Andrew Price, which I highly recommend everyone to do. And
Mm-hmm.
if you're interested in Blender, of course, and there's a lot of tutorials. But when you, for example, pick a scenario for yourself and you start learning everything towards that, it's fun, it's motivating, and you achieve something for your magnum opus, whatever it
Right,
is.
right.
And you should keep sharing the process of your making, and you might get a lot of followers and people who are interested in you. You never know what happens, and I think
Yeah,
that's such a
yeah,
good thing to do, in my personal opinion.
totally. Have you seen, because the way you described your robot sort of becoming more like larger and getting more brain capacity, have you ever seen the short called Zima Blue? You might like it. It's have you seen it?
I
Oh,
heard it before. Wait, let me actually write it down so I can. Zima, it's with an X, right?
Zima and then the word blue. It's a short that
Oh,
was
Love
part
Death
of the,
Robots.
yeah, Love, Death, and Robots. I think it's one of my favorite shorts on that first season, together with the short The Witness. But Zima Blue is special. I think it's a really great short. It's directed by Robert Valley, who's also a big inspiration. Actually, he's yeah, he's amazing. You should watch that
Or
short, man.
another
I think
thing
it's
that the kind of yeah, I will. I will. Actually, it's weird that I still haven't watched Love Death Robots. It's so weird.
yeah, because
Jesus,
you like mechs
I'll
and
definitely
you
watch it.
like
Like,
sci-fi,
yeah.
like post-apocalyptic stuff. So you should watch it. It's that they're
I
not all the
will.
same
I will.
quality, but
Thanks for reminder.
yeah, there's there's 2 seasons out by now too, so there's a lot of stuff to dive into.
Awesome. And here's another like fun thing I kind of imagine, and it 100% will add to the like the story and environment and everything. Imagine like, a bunch of, you see the setting of, rural children and families in general. Like, for example, let's imagine a South American village, right? For example, and there's like 4 or 5 mothers like trying to wash the clothes in the afternoon, and the kids are running around playing, and the kids go out and play in the outside area of the village, and one of their moms say, be careful out there. And here's the thing, before they go, in the world that I have, it's the same sort of dynamic. They put on their children this type of a special colorful vest that has like a kind of plastic, like kind of ring behind it attached to the thing. And I don't want it to show, of course, I'm spoiling this stuff for people who are listening, but at the video game or the animation that I'm going to make out of it, I'm first going to show that, and I'm not going to say why it's for. But then when they go play and it's kind of getting late, so like 2 or 3 tall, not scared looking, mech looking, without any basically anything on. It's just pure mech. You know what I mean?
Right. Mm-hmm.
They get started by the mothers, and what's going to happen? Those robots are just kind of like programmed to pick up those rings. They were previously industrial robots, but now they kind of programmed it for their lives. So, the robots just pick up the rings, they pick up the children, and they carry it back. And this sort of stuff, you know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. No, those are cool concepting ideas. You gotta work those out, man. Oh, did I lose you?
Yeah, of course I will.
Hello? I can't see or hear you anymore. Hello? Are you back?
Yeah, you're here. Okay. Yeah. Sorry, for a second I think you zoomed out a bit.
Oh, okay.
All right. Here's a question. And what, beside art and everything, what area beside all of this would you be interested to explore and learn in the future, aside from art, of course?
I don't know. Not much. I mean, I don't. I'm really into this. I mean, like art, like 3D printing, like that. I all consider to be sort of under art. Like under the creative umbrella. Outside of that, I couldn't think of anything, man. Like, I mean, I like doing other stuff, like sports and all that stuff, but I don't want to, like be proficient to the point of a career in that. You know what I mean? Like, do you have stuff outside of, like, let's say the art world that you wanna learn in?
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, fun thing, I've been actually living in Istanbul, like Turkey, for 3 years now. I'm actually Turkish. I'm an immigrant here. And initially, my plan, of course, was art as well. I loved art, but I was like, I'm 22 years old and I'm already late to it. And one of my big passions and things that I'm interested in, and I might still do it for fun when I get the chance to do so, is martial arts. And I actually left, I put art aside, and for 2 years intensively, I just trained jiu-jitsu, Muay Thai and stuff like that. And I even got ready for international jiu-jitsu tournaments in Istanbul. I was going to have my amateur MMA fights, but Corona came. And then, of course, I got out of shape. I got demotivated. Then I got back into art, and here we are. I think it all worked out good.
I mean, this is safer. I do like MMA too, but very like how do you say that? Friendly, like very how do you say that? Like not controlled. Serious. Yeah, controlled, but I mean, it's just for sport. It's for fun. Like
it's soft sparring. Yeah.
Right. I mean, I have no interest in actually fighting someone. I just like the sport. But I think with this path you're choosing sounds safer. You're not gonna like break something or like get brain damage or something. So I think art is good. But it's awesome that you went full on it, man.
No, but
sounds good.
I always love it when I outsmart my opponent, whether in chess, whether in martial arts. That like that's a high that I don't get anywhere else. And I don't want to sound like I'm some sort of badass or something. I'm not. Like if there's a fight, I'll probably run, not because I'm scared, because in the streets it's different. All right, that's another subject.
Right.
But basically, like the whole concept of outsmarting your opponent is really attractive to me. Like actually using your brain power. You both like train so hard, but then you unexpectedly do something that they did not expect, and you get the upper hand. I mean, that's awesome in my opinion. And I think that's about it. Thank you so much for coming on this podcast. We've reached the final question and section of the podcast, which is called Final Awards. You thought it was the end. Haha, no. There's one more left. And
Oh, snap.
all right, so let me explain what final words means. All right, it sounds so dramatic or something. All right, here's the thing. Imagine in a window of time that we have right now, you as a human can say anything or leave a message or messages to another human being. And that another human being is anyone who's listening to this podcast at any point of time in the future. I mean, of course, today is 27th of February. I might upload this 10 days later, like in the early March. But to anyone who's listening to this podcast in the future, what do you have to say?
That's a tough question. I don't know. I'll have to, let me think. I'll explain part of the tough time I have with answering a question like that is that I have a intense dislike for anything that resembles inspirational quotes. So I have to be careful with my own words that I don't throw out some cheesy inspirational quote line.
Understandable.
I mean, again, everything I say, it's like, that's my opinion and I'm an idiot, so it's like, that's just me. I think, inspirational quotes are probably very good, but not for me. So what would I have to say to another human being? I don't know, man. Okay. Maybe you have to go first. Maybe what would you say? Do you get to say that yourself, or is it usually only the guests that get to say that?
Only the guests, but since you asked, I could also go for it. I mean, it's not the first time that the tables were flipped in the podcast. Other guests kind of got pressure. I say, you go first, and all right,
right.
I'll try to. I don't even remember what I said, but so fuck it. I'll just say whatever that's come on my mind is. Just listen to your heart. Just listen to your intuition. I think if there's one thing out of everything I could say in a limited time, it would be this: that regardless of any situation that might happen, doesn't matter where you live in this world, just follow your heart and passion. And in the long run, you will see results that you thought you've never seen. Because of course, in the family and society and everything could say stuff like no, art is not, for example, let's give it art for example, art is not is not going to give any benefits or salary or out of it. It's not good, but right. If you work on your niche and unique taste, there's definitely going to be other people who are interested in that. And let me give you another example. We talked about martial arts. Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu wasn't so popular 20 years ago or something, not even 10 years ago. Yeah. But with the advent of MMA and stuff like that, it got super popular and super useful. And a lot of fights got on it. And even still right now, it's this, a spectator sport. Mm-hmm. But still, for example, let's say Gordon Ryan, which is undoubtedly one of the best, pound for pound, no-gi competitors ever.
Yeah.
He started training at a time that it wasn't that super popular, but now he kept being consistent and kept true to what he liked, and he's one of the greatest now. So basically what I'm saying is try to find fulfillment for your soul rather than your body, because a lot of people, as you can see, their system of living it's basically pretty hedonistic. It's just after money and stability and pleasure, and it's all physical. But right. You need to a great way I could say this is that fulfillment of soul, that feeling when you achieve something, when you do a hard task, when you overcome it, and that feeling that, I cannot, your soul kind of breathes out, I did it. And I think you should live for that feeling, because it's not dedicated or related or dependent on anything physical. It's all dependent on, how much hungry your soul is for that feeling. And I think right. In the end, the way to kind of feed that feeling is through finding your passion and doing what you love. And with that being said, now it's your turn.
That's a good one, man. I mean, I do agree with you that you kind of have to sort of accept the struggle part of all of this. To me, illustrating or designing, 99% of it is not really fun because it's very frustrating. The stuff you see on Instagram or the stuff you see me posting of jobs is the end result. Everything before that was a complete frustration usually. It just doesn't come easy. Maybe for some people, but not for me. So I mean, I agree with you that this whole struggle thing is just something you kind of have to accept and embrace, and it's a part of your process, how about that? That is me piggybacking on what you said?
No,
and
no, it's fine. It's fine. No, it's fine.
That's probably as close as I can get to saying anything inspirational.
No, and it's fine. I totally get it. I kind of don't like inspirational quotes myself, but at the end of the day, like, it gets down to whatever we have to say kind of becomes in one way or another some sort of inspirational quote, and who cares?
Right.
Like, whatever. And all right. Thank you so much for coming by for this episode, for episode 152. And where can people contact you if they had any question? Is your Twitter and Instagram okay if I leave them in the captions?
Yeah, totally. People can contact me however they want, through Instagram or ArtStation message. Actually, I never check my ArtStation message, so maybe don't do that. But you can Instagram message me, and or email me, or do whatever you want. So thanks for having me, man. It was nice of you to invite me.
Yeah, my pleasure. Like, it was really fun. And it's kind of weird. Like, sometimes when I try to do podcasts, no one has nothing to do with me. But as soon as I have a podcast recording, everyone, like, I have like 17 notifications, like different messages right now. And like, even my, like, actually the person who called was my student. Like, like, he thought today was Monday. And I was like, where are you? Like, and he called 2 or 3 times on WhatsApp. I was like, Jesus, maybe there's something like important happening.
Right.
I was like, dude, when is the class? It's 9 o'clock. And I was like, and I quickly typed, I'm in the middle of podcast. And I was like, oh.
Yeah. That's how it goes, man. Yeah. That's how it goes sometimes, right?
Yeah. All right. Thank you so much for coming by, and thank you to anyone who tuned in and listened to this episode or watched this episode on YouTube. I hope you are enjoying the new format of the podcast. I try to not make it I try to make it more organic and flowy from now on, like make it like a conversation rather than like an interview. Like, it's a craft that I'm trying to perfect. It's been 2 years that I'm doing podcasts. And if I put it on a spectrum, I'm trying to go from like interviewee to, conversation, which has been a process in itself. Like, it's been 152 episodes for God's sake.
Wow. Yeah.
And
that's impressive.
Thank you. And I hope you all enjoyed this episode. Thank you again for coming by. Till next episode, take care, everyone. Have a good day. Bye.
Bye-bye.